And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan Metzler here again. Woo, and today we're going to be taking a look at Fits. This is a Tetris style game by Reiner Knizia. It's going to be a game where each player has their own board, their own pieces, and they're kind of not really interacting except for they're trying to beat each other's scores in order to get the high score in a game of Tetris. Players will flip cards, place pieces onto their board in order to try and best arrange their pieces around different obstacles. And at the end of each round, you'll calculate how many points or potentially how many negative points you get, and you'll move on to the next round. So real quick, why don't we see what you get inside this box. We'll go over a quick summary of how the game plays, and then we'll come back here and we'll get my final opinion on it. So here you can see the setup for one player for Fits, and this is going to be a game for 4 players, and it's essentially going to be multiplayer Tetris, where no player is really interacting with the other players, but each player is trying to get their best score on their own little board. Now, at the beginning of each round, and this is the board for round 1, each player is going to get one of these 4 light blue cards. You're going to flip it over, and they're going to see that this is their starting piece. So this one here has this square with a little extra piece coming off of it. But there are 4 other ones. There's the big L, the kind of disproportionate L, and this kind of T piece. And any one of these could be your starting card for each of the rounds. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the appropriate piece. So we had that square with the extra piece, and you're going to try and slide it into your board. Now, you'll see these things here are plastic covers that go over the sheets within your ramp here. And they have guidelines on them. It's going to be hard to see on the video, but you'll see some guidelines here. And you'll have this on your thing, and you're going to put your piece at the top, and you're going to slide it down. And it's going to slide along these guidelines. So maybe I want to start this piece all the way to the left, and I'm going to slide it all the way down. And once you've started sliding it down, you're not supposed to move it, just like in Tetris. Well, actually not just like in Tetris, but in this case, once you've started sliding down, there's no jockeying over to get it into a spot. You have to slide it straight down whenever you place a piece. After that, everyone is essentially going to have the same group of pieces. You can see them all here. There's 16 of them, including the one that's on your board. And as we go on, we're going to flip a card from the top of this stack of cards each turn. And you're going to have to place that piece on your board. So the first piece would be, we have the littler L, and we're going to have to place that out onto our board. So we would find the appropriate piece, and we're going to try and find a good spot to put it on our board. Well, this works out pretty well right there. We slide it all the way down. And each player is going to do this on their own board, trying to fill up as many of these spots as possible. And the goal here is to complete rows and to not leave the dots showing on your board. At the end of the first round on this board, you're going to get 1 point for each completed row, and you're going to get -1 point for each dot that is showing on the board. So you're actually going to end up with some pretty low scores. So we'd flip the next one. We have the T piece. Well, this is particularly bad for this player because no matter what they do, they're going to leave open spots. So what they can decide to do is not place this piece at all. They simply pass on it, and they won't be able to place it at all, which gives them a higher chance of having more dots open later, but maybe they can make better plays to cover more dots than if they had left this piece out. And they'd flip the next piece, and now this is their starting piece, so they can't place a piece this round. Everybody else will place this piece. This player will wait until everybody else is placed, and you'll move on until you go through this whole deck, trying to fill all the way up to the top and covering as many dots as possible. And as I said, each completed row, so if you were to complete a row, something like this, these 3 rows would be worth 1 point each. But if you ended up in a situation where, for example, you had blocked off an area where you couldn't place any of your pieces, for example, like this, these 4 dots here would be -1, and that dot there would be another -1, as well as any dots that you didn't cover above this. Now, in addition to this board, there are several other boards that come with this. If you flip this one over, you can see another one here, and this one has numbers on it. In this case, the only way to get positive points is to leave these numbers showing. So you'll want to cover all the dots around them and leave those dots showing to get positive points. On the next board, it's going to get even harder. There are both positive and negative points. Any positive points you leave uncovered are positive points. Any negative points you leave uncovered are negative points. And any dots are still going to be -1 point for each one that you leave uncovered. And it goes even further. You're going to have the 4th board here where you need to leave pairs of things open. If you leave the pairs open, they're worth positive points. But if you cover over one of the pairs, it's worth negative points now. So you'll see there's 2 purple X's, or there's 2 green diamonds, or 2 circles. Now, on top of all of this, on top of the stuff that comes with it, there are lots of expansion boards that have been made, fan-made expansion boards and official expansion boards, like this one, where you have almost all negatives, but you have to fill in or leave this whole group of positives open in order to get the positive points. Then you'd get positive points for each of those spots that you left open. But if you cover any of them, you get negative points. So this game does have some expandability based on fan expansions and official expansions that you can add to it if you decide you want more. And there you have it. That is all there is to Fits. Now, you'll say this is multiplayer solitaire, and yes, it is definitely a multiplayer solitaire scenario. You have absolutely no interaction with the other players in the game whatsoever. And I'm actually okay with that. Now, this game is not slow. It's a really relatively fast-moving game. You're going to get to your card, you're going to play your piece, and you're going to move on to the next card. There's no real downtime unless you have one player who's taking forever to try and rotate their piece and find a spot for it to go in. And in that case, you should basically just move on and tell them, not too long, we're going to move on without you. But the game is fun. It's not forgiving in some of the later rounds, especially with those expansion boards. If you make a mistake and you left something open, or you used a piece that maybe you should have used in a different manner, you're likely going to lose quite a few points for doing so. But the game is a blast. It's a really great game. It's really easy to play, and I think it's one that really a lot of different types of gamers would enjoy and belongs in almost any gaming collection.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.